Chair Jackson, we are now streaming live. So when you want to call the meeting to order, you can.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 25th meeting of the Lacey Equity Commission. I welcome those of you who are joining us virtually today. We have a rather ambitious agenda this evening, and we do have a quorum, so we are going to proceed with that. Know, however, that as soon as our other commissioners join us, we do want to pause the agenda for the photographs so that we can make sure everyone's in it as much as possible. So with that, let's proceed then with that first item of the approval of the agenda, the previous minutes, and the consent agenda. And as we go into that, I would entertain a motion from someone for us to reconsider the meeting minutes of August 23rd. We had some end of the meeting discussion on that last time. And again, we find it necessary to double back and double check on something. So I would entertain a motion from someone to reconsider the minutes of August 23rd, if you would. Yes, Shannon?
Just really quickly, we can approve all three of those items at once. So you could read for the approval of the agenda, the previous minutes from August 23rd and the previous minutes from September 27th.
Okay, we'll do that then as a consent item. Then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda and the consent items. Is there one?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve these three things.
Is there a second?
Second.
It was moved by Annie and seconded by John. Am I correct? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Then the reconsideration of the minutes on August 23rd. Shannon, would you just briefly describe why we are revisiting that at this time?
So the August 23rd meeting minutes are being amended to include a correction to one of the votes that took place, confirming Chair Brown as the Vice Chair of the Commission on Equity. And for the record, the motion was Commissioner Hedgewood, and then the second was Commissioner Hart, and that is now reflected in the updated meetings minutes from the August 23rd meeting.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So with that explanation, those in favor of the consent item that contains three items at this point, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anyone joining us from the public today that might wish to address us?
Chair Jackson, I see two presenters currently from the public.
And they are already on the agenda and scheduled, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
however, if either of them wanted to provide public comments, they could press *9 or raise their hand as an attendee.
So are they doing that? I don't have full screen like you do.
Chair Jackson, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no hands raised, we close the public comment session for this meeting. Our inspirational item for today, Commissioner Elena's Blackburn, if you will.
Okay, hi everyone. Before I begin, I want to say I have another meeting I have to attend at 6:30 in person, so I won't be able to be with you guys for the full period this day, knowing that we usually spread this out until about 8 o'clock, 8:30. Another thing, so my inspirational item today, I wanted to make it a little bit interactive, so we're going to play a little bit of a popcorn game that goes with this excerpt that I'm about to read for you guys. So, for example, let's say I was reciting Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. After I were to recite that, I would start the popcorn and somebody would say, Twinkle, Twinkle, and somebody else would say, How I Wonder. So whatever made you feel the most excerpt, you're going to recite as we popcorn along, just shout it out, if that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so I'll just read the excerpt and then we'll start popcorning. Just whatever made you feel the most, whatever, short phrase that really stuck out to you. You can go ahead and recite that to express that. Okay. Feeling low when you vibrate high. Coming down, you constantly wonder why, because in a spiritual state of mind, your dreams can fly, and when it goes away, they begin to die, and purpose feels worthless. When I see the world's becomings, I feel the most pain. After riots and pandemics, I have nothing to gain, but life goes on. Limp or standing steady, shining breezy or low and heavy, I know that I am nothing but an atom, and I was made to make something out of them. But sometimes it's odd being so small in a universe so mysterious and tall. I fear for the world, and how soon comes a turn where the darkness shows itself in a roaring sadist burn. We could have done better. From the media to the weather, I know I am just an atom, but so are you and him. I wish we saw that before our time was so thin. I wish the things we all magnify weren't so little. Move on to bigger and better things for the sake of you and me. Atoms, your life is not a joke. Enter your vacuum and stay woke. So that is the excerpt for today. Does anybody want to start popcorn?
Stay woke.
I know I am nothing but an atom.
I have nothing to gain, but life goes on.
Anybody else? If not, it's totally fine. And I'll move on to the next part of my presentation. Okay, sounds great. So yeah, that excerpt was actually written by me a couple years ago. I thought I would dive into a few of my old journals to kind of get raw for our inspirational item today. But in that excerpt, I also provided you guys an explanation of what that meant to me, because sometimes poetry is kind of hard to understand from the eyes of, the reader. But in this poem, I'm describing the concept, the fall is all you know. And really think about that phrase, like the fall is all you know. And I'm
Oh, did she freeze up?
Yes.
Oh, there she is. You're muted, darling.
She's muted now. Okay, Elena's?
Hi.
We lost you for a moment there.
Yeah,
You
oh my
froze
God.
up on us.
I just looked up and was kicked out. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, so basically the concept that I was describing in my poetry was the fall is all you know. And really think about that phrase, like, what does it feel like to only know fall? And that's what I'll be explaining to you guys today. So to add on to Miss Annie Clay's favorite, what is it called? From a poem?
Inspirational moment. Mm-hmm.
Yes, inspirational moment. You want to come? I'll remember the specific word later. But when I say I'm nothing but an atom, and that is the truth until I change it, I mean that nobody is stopping me from becoming something but me. But people can struggle to see that reality when you come from nothing. And it is most common to identify with that reality when that is all you know. When all you truly know is the fall, you don't realize that you could ever possibly fly because you've never even seen it happen. For example, growing up, all I really knew was the fall, addiction, sleeping on someone's floor, microwave ramen, anger, anxiety, trauma.
You're coming in. All right.
A lot of life, and it's realized that I had the abilities that can reach way farther into something bigger than my nothingness. And that's the issue with a lot of people, especially, is that in that bubble that they originate from, just identify with that. The best way to describe that feeling is holding you back, when in reality, there's nothing there. You feel like there's no something, but because all you know is nothing, but in reality, there's no wall. There's not even a door. You just have to walk. But you know on. It's systematic, and I'm hoping to inspire our group today by reminding us how important it is to inspire people. So that was my goal. by sharing this with you guys is to inspire you to remember the importance of actually inspiring people and to drive the passion out of their hearts, because if people don't have that inspiration, all they're going to know is the fall. And as leaders, I feel like we must provide the community with opportunity to be inspired, expose people to change, expose people to visual representation of nothing becoming something, expose people to opportunities to see people actually fly and say, maybe that could be me. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Alanis. Thank you. I see that Cliff joined us. Is Kim on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, great. Then Shannon, you have the full commission if we'd like to pause now after our inspirational item before we move into the rest of the agenda.
Fantastic, Chair Jackson. It does look like we have all members of the commission. And as you all were warned, we are going to take a photo of the commission to put on our flyer as well as on our website. So if you all want to turn on your cameras real quick, I will take a couple photos and I will make sure that when we post that, you all can see them and make sure that your names are associated with them as well. So if you all want to turn on your cameras.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. Could I just use my photo? Today, I don't feel well. I'm not in a good day.
Absolutely, Commissioner Sauer.
Thank you.
And I was trying to change my profile picture. I am not presentable by any means. It's been a long weekend.
Commissioner Hart, do you want to send me a photo and we can add it on there? All right, so it looks like we're just missing Commissioner Brown, Vice Chair Brown, who has temporarily disappeared from the meeting. So let's give him just a second to rejoin us.
Okay, thank you. And the rest of us are visible for your shot?
That is correct.
Okay, good.
Chair Jackson, I don't see him rejoining as of yet, but how about we take a couple photos and we'll make sure to grab a shot of him and add him as well to the photo group.
Okay, good idea.
So 1, 2. All right, that was a great one. Let me take one more. Hold those smiles. Fantastic. I think I got one.
Okay, super. Thank you. With that item completed, then let us move into our business items, and item 4A being the Juneteenth presentation. Charlene Anderson and Mayor Andy Ryder.
Hello, Commission on Equity. It's really good to see everyone. I'm sorry to sort of hijack your meeting here and try to get some time in, but I felt like it was too important of a topic, and looking at the calendars for the next couple months, it just nothing was working out. So we had to squeeze in today. So I was approached by Charlene Anderson, who's on with us a couple of weeks ago, and she wanted to get together and talk, have a meeting to talk about Juneteenth and a possible celebration that we could do in the city of Lacey. And we had a really great meeting, and I felt like it was a good opportunity for the Commission on Equity to really be able to showcase your guys' your work plan and what you've been doing, what you will have been doing for the year on this important date. And we had just had a couple ideas. We wanted to run it by you. I'll turn it back over to Charlene, and she can sort of bring you up to date on what she was thinking. And what we're hoping is that this was something the commission was interested in. You could talk about it, and maybe at sometime in the future, even have another subcommittee or something like that that focuses specifically on this celebration. So I'll turn it over to Charlene, and maybe you can just let them know what you were thinking.
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, Mayor, for inviting me to this meeting. I originally contacted the mayor regarding having a Juneteenth celebration down here at the Lake Point Park. And as I was reading the sign, there were some things that you can't do down at the park. So I was contacting him saying, hey, can I get some exceptions to some of these rules? Because I'm really interested in having a Juneteenth celebration. And how this kind of came about is, as a young child growing up in Racine, Wisconsin, we celebrated Juneteenth every year. However, I have to be honest and say that although I was celebrating Juneteenth, I absolutely had no idea what I was really celebrating. So I said, when I got older and learned more about Juneteenth, I really wanted to change that for our youth, and so that they have that awareness and understand exactly what they're celebrating. And really important this year or next year coming up, because Juneteenth will be an official holiday. So I really wanted to make sure that we could celebrate. And what I want to celebrate is definitely the history of Juneteenth. And of course, we're going to eat and all of that. Eating is always good, and have music that really unites us. But what has been missing in some of the Juneteenth celebrations is the educational component. And I think that is so important for our kids to understand exactly what they're celebrating. So I was really hoping that we could have a celebration here in Lacey next year. And it doesn't necessarily have to be such a huge celebration. It could be scalable. We can start small and then just get larger every year. So I wanted to have a celebration where we could eat, have music, have an educational component, have activities for the adults and the children, and just really have a good time learning about what Juneteenth means and how we can all progress moving forward. Now, there is a group, a Masonic Lodge here. I think they're called the Lacey Olympia Tumwater Lodge, that has been hosting a Juneteenth year celebration every year at their regional complex. Yes. Okay. And so I did go to that celebration this year, and I talked to one of the people there, Jay Evans, and he told me that they have been doing this every year. And we recently had a short meeting last week, and I talked about working together or collaborating with them to do something a little bit bigger, specifically bringing the educational piece in. And so we decided that we would meet in a couple weeks to talk about exactly what that looks like, so that we could have a larger celebration. Mm-hmm. So just really wanted to bring that forward and let you know what we were thinking and what your thoughts are around that.
So when we had the meeting and I heard about this, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for us to showcase the Commission on Equity, and I think a good opportunity to maybe reach out to the Black student unions at the high schools as well, to help them see if there's some collaboration with them as well. I know North Thurston Public Schools is doing a lot of work. And we're going to have a meeting. The city council is going to have a meeting with them, a joint meeting with them this week. And so this is another thing that I feel like the more we can collaborate, the more reach that we can have and talk about what we're doing in Lacey. And so, again, I just want to run it by, it's your commission. And so if this is something you guys are interested in, you have my support 100%. I do think that this could be a really great annual event, and sort of along the lines of, there's a couple years ago that we started a Polynesian Fest in Lacey at the RAC, and it's grown to be, quite the event. And at some point, you could probably even apply for some LTAC dollars to supplement, what the city of Lacey could maybe bring in as well. And so we could really look in on the educational side of things and be able to, talk about that. So I'll bring it open to the floor, seeing what your guys' thoughts are on it.
I love the idea, honestly.
So this is Kim, and I welcome the idea and would like to totally support. What I'd like to know is we want to do other events as well. There's Asian, Heritage Month, Immigrant Heritage Month, Hispanic. So we need to also think about incorporating other cultures and other other events as well. So this can be a starting point, but that's something I would like to make sure that we cover and extend it to other cultures as well.
You bring up a good point, and I think that's something that the commission is going to have to figure out. There's a lot of events that the commission should be present at, or I would like to see them be present at least some sort of presence at some these the multicultural events. So that's something you need to think about as well. In this circumstance, I just felt like it was a real good opportunity to sort of set the stage of what we've been working on. So what do you think? What do you think, Thelma?
I was just about to speak up and say that the Fred U. Harris Lodge is the Masonic group that Charlene was making reference to. And this past June was actually their 34th year that they have done Juneteenth here in Lacey. So this isn't a new idea. It's been going on. It was huge this year. They said they fed more than 500 people that from noon to about 4 o'clock came through at different times. There was an education component to it with printed material about the history of Juneteenth, what it was about, how it came to be, not only talked about, but distributed so that young people and others who didn't know about it had something to take away. So the idea is great because there were 2 other smaller Juneteenth events going on the same day. One in Tumwater that was new and sprung up this year, then another one over in Olympia. And neither of those 2 and those people that I talked to had any idea that this was happening in Lacey. Yet this is the 34th year that it had taken place. So I'm all for the concept, but I would certainly like to expand it and recognize the Fred U. Harris Lodge and for the school districts to be brought in as partners, the education component that can be expanded so that it's not just an outdoor Saturday thing. This lodge donates and prepares all of this food. 5 o'clock in the morning, their barbecue grills are set up and no cost, no potluck asked, no donations asked. And it's an event that they have been doing consistently for the last 34 years. So first of all, I'd like an acknowledgement that this has been happening and it's been happening in Lacey. So this won't be new for Lacey, but it is an opportunity to showcase. And next year is a critical year since it will be a national holiday. The concept I soundly support, but I would not like to see it evolve as though this is a new thing happening.
Sure, absolutely. I just think it's an opportunity for Lacey and the commission to talk about and be able to present about what your work plan was for the year, what you've been working on, and really be able to show that connection. It's the first year the commission's up and going, and so I think it's just a great opportunity for us to interact with the public and how this is a key priority for the city of Lacey. It's obviously a key priority for me. as everyone here knows. So I would love to see you guys figure this out together. And so I don't know, Shannon, do you have a suggestion on what the next steps would be to figure this out?
Let me ask a question first. You said a meeting was coming up next week with the group. Who is that meeting with, ma'am?
So I'm meeting with North Thurston Public, the full city council is meeting with North Thurston Public Schools.
That joint meeting, yeah.
Joint meeting, and it'd be nice to be able to make that connection to, at some point to be able to say, hey, we're starting hopefully the outline of some collaboration here, and be able to reach out to the schools if they want to collaborate with the commission as well.
Well, I would strongly recommend that you reach out to the Fred U. Harris Lodge and meet with some representatives there so that they can be a part of initial discussions other than brought in later on after, some other kinds of things. And I'm almost certain that they would gladly embrace, a broader involvement of people, enhance the educational component of it, but certainly to be recognized for what they've been doing for the past 34 years and not presented as a new idea and a new concept as though it hasn't been happening before.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Jackson, I did speak to Mr. Jay Evans because I knew that had been happening. And I think he told me it's been happening for 41 years. I was like, oh my goodness. But I didn't realize that it had been happening for so long. But the reason why I reached out to him specifically is because we had been having a celebration down at the Lake Point Park, but we were celebrating the 4th of July. And so I was telling my group of friends, well, since Juneteenth is going to be an official holiday, let's expand that now and celebrate Juneteenth. And so the reason why I reached out to Mr. Evans, one of my co-workers knew Mr. Evans from the lodge. And so we spoke and I said, I definitely don't want to step on your toes. I understand that you have been doing this for a while, but we were also trying to do something at Lake Point Park. So maybe we can collaborate on this. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, most certainly, let's just meet up and talk about what it looks like and we can work together. So most definitely acknowledging that work and realizing that it's definitely nothing new. We just wanted to expand on it and kind of work together.
So what are you thinking, Shannon?
My recommendation, Mayor Ryder, is to reconvene another meeting with Ms. Anderson and a representative from the Commission on Equity and with Mr. Evans to have a second conversation on that and to talk about ways that we might be able to enhance or augment ongoing efforts. And then bring that back to the full commission as an additional presentation later this year. And, if the commission decides that they want to move forward with efforts to help with, planning additional Juneteenth celebrations, whether that's an augmentation of one that's already existing or starting up something that's different, we can work that into our work plan into 2022. Looking forward to the Juneteenth celebration in June of 2022.
Mm-hmm. And to let the let the commission know, we do have some money in our budget to support the Commission on Equity. So if there's some dollars that need to happen for whatever reason, whether it bring in, the fund component, we bring in the education component, whatever it takes, we do have dollars in our budget for the Commission on Equity. So just I want you to keep that in mind if that comes up.
I think it also would be awesome to have a youth representative in that meeting with the North Thurston Public Schools, being that we are involved in both parties involved in the meeting. So I feel like that would be a component to have when you go meet with them and discuss Black Student Union.
Yeah, I think that
great. That sounds like a great approach.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing what comes of this. And please, Shannon, keep me in the loop and let me know how I can support this effort along the way.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Charlene.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything, Charlene.
All right, thank you. Bye now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Any questions or comments from any other commissioner before we move on to item 4B? Okay. Then item 4B, Lacey Cares Initiative Overview, Shannon along with Jason Robertson.
So Chair Jackson, give me just a second here. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Okay, not a problem.
Can you hear me?
Is that Jason?
Yes,
hear
it's a disembodied Jason.
I can hear you, but no picture.
Hold on just a second.
Got it.
Ta-da.
There he is.
Thank you, Shannon.
Recording in progress.
Chair Jackson, I think we're all here.
Okay. There's an echo, Shannon.
Chair Jackson, that should have taken care of the echo.
Yes, it did. Yes. Very good. Thank you. So Lacey Cares Initiative Overview.
So I'll just start talking.
I apologize. Sorry, I'm just dealing with little technical issues, but I see you all now. For a second, I couldn't see you, but I just want to welcome to the Commission on Equity, Jason Robertson. Jason here tonight is going to be able to provide a in-depth look at an initiative that the City of Lacey is currently actively involved in called Lacey Cares. And this is really just an effort to connect with the community after what we went through with 2020, and Jason will get into that a little bit more and how we're looking to do that. And I explained a little bit at our last meeting of how we reached out to individuals to get some feedback on Lacey Cares. What I want to stress with this initiative is that we are in one stage of the initiative. And as I mentioned last week, it wasn't the most ideal environment for us to be getting community engagement in the past. I mean, ideally, we'd be out in the community asking community members, what they want to see, doing presentations, in addition to surveys, which we did. And that's primarily what we had to rely on so far with the Lacey Cares initiative. But we are looking in future phases, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit today. So Jason's going to go over what we've done so far with the Lacey Cares initiative. So just as a quick primer, and I know Jason, you're like, I'm going to go over this, but what we did was we did a survey, and it was an online survey, and we asked individuals to provide feedback on broad categories. So typically, when you have a survey, sometimes it's, hey, fill in this blank, or, provide a 1 or 2 sentence. This was wide open to the community to allow any type of feedback. So we'll go over what we heard just as a brief overview, and then Jason can dive into some more details on, there was a question that we asked about diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts here in Lacey. So with that, Jason, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Shannon. Well, I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint so you guys have something else to look at besides me. I appreciate you giving us a couple minutes today. I think this is a great connection point for us. And I'm glad we get to talk to you early while we're in the middle of all this, so you can kind of start thinking about how we can use the information we're collecting. So just a little bit of a background on how this came about. So I was talking to the city, this is all pre-COVID, I was talking to the city about updating the communications plan and doing some other work. And one thing led to another, and our conversation sort of evolved into, this might be a good time to really reconnect with Lacey community members and figure out what we want things to be like when we get back to doing things. And so Lacey Cares is, the impetus is you've got people in lockdown. All of our normal communication chains are messed up, like Shannon alluded to. We wanted to instill a little bit of hope, like when we get back outside, what kinds of things do you want to be able to do? But during the pandemic, we had a lot of social and racial awakening for people. And when we do get back to going full steam ahead, we got to do it better, and we've got to do it with more people at the table. And so we want to kind of start creating opportunities. And then, of course, the city is about to update the comprehensive plan. And if you ask somebody, a community member to come to a zoning meeting, they're probably not going to. But if you say, tell us in your own words, how could our community be better? They're more likely to participate. So as Shannon mentioned, we're really early on in visioning. We've been doing the kind of grassroots outreach. We have sorted some of the data. We've already sorted the parks and recreation data. And we'll do the same thing for, I think we had 18 different topics we asked people about. And over 1,000 people have participated so far. We want to share the detailed data with staff and departments so they can use it to improve their work plans and their communications with Lacey residents, community members. We want to organize it into focus areas. 18 categories is too many. So maybe something like 5 or 6 focus areas like health and wellness, sustainability, inclusion, and diversity. We'll kind of see where the data takes us. And then when you sort all the community inputs, ideas start to emerge, trends and gems, I like to say, that we would like to convert into potential action. So the community has stated a future picture of Lacey. What actions can we take to make that come true over time? And we know out of the gate that the city isn't going to do all of the things. So we're going to need help from partners, nonprofit entities, the school district, the county, all kinds of different partners to do all the things that make Lacey the community people have asked for. So just wanted to share with you sort of the first round of input. One of the questions we asked out of the gate, and I'm sure a lot of you have took the survey, what do you like about Lacey today? What makes Lacey feel like home to you? And so these are sort of the top line, most frequently cited things. People love the trails, open space, and parks programs. They like that it's clean and safe and quiet. It's a city, but not too big, not too small, family friendly. They love their roads. So I told Shannon it's the only time in the history of doing visioning in 22 years where I've seen infrastructure be one of the things people love most. You do have some lovely roads and roundabouts. They actually want more roundabouts, if you can believe it. They like the responsive government, and they love schools and library. A lot of ownership in those places. We said, what would you like to be able to say? What's your top priority? After we asked them, tell us anything you want about these 18 categories. What is your number one priority? These are the top responses again. Homelessness is very time-in-it. It's very timely. It's visible. It's on the front of people's minds. They know Lacey's growing. They want to manage that growth. They want it to still feel like home when there's more people here. Love independent businesses in particular. They know our park system has to evolve. It's really nice right now. We have a lot of parks. We sure could use a pool, a publicly accessible pool, and so forth. But I highlighted this one, boasting a welcoming, respectful, inclusive culture. That rose to the top. A lot of people are talking about that, and to different people it means different things. It's one of the topics we'll be exploring in greater detail. So one of the categories we asked them, what would you like to say about Lacey's efforts in the diversity, equity, and inclusion arena? And these are sort of this is the general direction we've heard back. Show it, we can talk about it, but let's show that we're a welcoming community. And if you can do that with more events and culturals and festivals and parties and street fairs, then so much the better, because people want to have fun learning about one another. Lacey, the city staff should look like the community it represents. Maybe we be more proactive, providing resource and information for immigrants. So people come here and there's not just a language barrier, there's just a systems gap, right? How does it work here? How do I integrate? Good recognition that, the city doesn't have to be an expert out of the gate on diversity and inclusion, that there's partners that do know what they're doing and can provide gateways and education and help build bridges. And then a couple other things. One is considering people of different abilities when designing infrastructure. So that could be play parks, sidewalks, etc. And then I just want to note here, treat all people the same. There's different ways people said that, but this has become a political issue for a lot of people. And it's something that is a very small minority of the comments, but something to be aware of as we plan and move forward with these things. And then I just wanted to share some specific things that people said that I thought were pretty interesting and kind of segued with what you were talking about earlier. We could do a outreach campaign, ask more businesses to provide safe place window stickers, so people know that all folks are welcome there. Being proactive with outreach and engagement in BIPOC community. Some real good firsthand stories in the comments, like, there's a reason we don't come to meetings because we got burned in the past, we're burnt out, and we don't do meetings the way you do meetings. So we got to go into the BIPOC communities and try harder. There you go, Juneteenth celebration. Cultural center, sorry, I skipped over. Cultural center is a place that people can go and learn passively. Juneteenth is an example. I think I heard one of your commission members mention that we should do more cultures. That seems to be consistent with what not everybody, a lot of people were saying in our survey, which is Juneteenth is a great example and a great place to start, but let's celebrate all cultures. Maybe we have a month for, different cultures throughout the year. For the city just to sort of instinctively think about the DEI lens when they make decisions. Does this impact people disproportionately? Is it fair to all? In investing in BIPOC businesses, and we will actually be announcing fairly soon some BIPOC business startup grants through our Thurston Strong work. So that is going to be happening. Facilitated dialogues. And like I said earlier, a small percentage of people uncomfortable with DEI. But that just kind of, for me, reinforces the need for education. And then I'm just going to give you a sneak preview. So I made this slide a week ago, but we're doing the Parks, Recreation and Culture survey right now to try to identify priorities from all the input we got from folks. And I just thought this particular page on cultural features, experiences, street fairs, farmers market, cultural events, and festivals. And I just thought you'd like to see that really is a popular way to build bridges and bring people together. And by the way, so now 1,500 people have taken this survey, and the cultural events and festivals is still way up here at the top. So I know I kind of blew through that really fast, but I wanted to just give you an overview of where we're at and a sense for what's to come, and then happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report sharing. Is this survey still open, or is this something that you do periodically? Is there any certain time frame it's capturing? Is it ongoing?
Yes. So Shannon and I will be talking offline very soon about phase 2 of the visioning project. The original survey that I just shared with you is still open, but we've pretty much harvested the data and we're moving forward. We are currently working on the parks, culture, recreation focus area because they're doing some other parks planning and the timing was right. But I want to do it with all the other focus areas, probably starting early 2022, and get the plan done by the end of the year. And then Shannon and I haven't confirmed this, but typically you update a vision plan. You can go out every year to ask for new ideas, but you don't really structurally change the vision until every 5 years. Because every 5 years, a pretty significant percentage of your population has changed over. There's new community members that didn't participate before. There's new technologies for communicating. There's new ideas that so you don't want it to get stale. You just keep it going. And that way, people who live in Lacey know they always have a place to go to bring their idea and be heard and seen.
To add on that, Commissioner Sauer, so, Mr. Robertson just said, we have the original survey open, but, really we're not harvesting any fresh data from that. But there will be other iterations of surveys and they will be done, at a periodic, regular basis. And, one thing that Mr. Robertson just went over was that we harvested the data from parks specifically already. And then we made a more kind of pinpointed survey based off of some of the data that we received from there and went back out to the community and said, this is what we understood from the surveys that we collected. Did we get this correct or do we need to adjust that? And in the future, we want to do other iterations of surveys to see if the priorities that are identified through some of the survey that we're doing right now continue to be priorities in the future, and if our benchmarking to achieve those priorities is consistently working towards actually achieving those items.
Thank you. One more question. I think I've taken this survey myself. I can't remember exactly. Was it offered in different languages? So
yes.
What? Okay.
Yes, we offered it in 5 or 6. I can't remember, Shannon. I think the top 6 languages spoken in Lacey.
Yeah, so Commissioner Sauer, we'll go over this here in just a second as we talk about our community engagement sessions, but we did translate it into the top 5 languages spoken at home other than English as identified by the American Communities Survey from the Census Bureau. And I'll have a slide on that here in just a second to show you what those were.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, could I ask, were you happy with the number of returns in 1,000, 1,500? Is that a good amount?
It is. It's never what you want it to be. You wish you'd get 80% participation rate, but
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time and that's a very good number, especially during COVID.
Because
the best way to get engagement is to go to those community events and festivals and intercept people, get them by the 100 at a time. And we just didn't have that available to us.
And I'll add on to that, Commissioner Clay, we certainly always want to get more participants to take our survey. But as Mr. Robertson just said, based on what we've seen through other outreach and surveys, what we received was a really good response, but we would certainly always want to have a more robust response moving forward.
I will say, and I want to add a point and clarify a point, which is the Parks and Recreation survey is still open through October 31st. If you want to take that survey, it's a priorities survey. And that's at 1,500 people and growing every day. So
and just one more point of clarification to add on to that point of clarification. So as I mentioned, before the slide deck was when we went out for this initial survey, this was give us everything you're thinking about. You could write, 1,500 characters if you had wanted to. Whereas, and then, so Jason, part of his role is taking a look at, well, what is everybody saying, coding, categorizing all of this data that's coming in. And now that, he's been doing that with his work, he was able to create the Park and Recreation Survey, which is slightly different because it is actually asking, questions like, hey, is this a priority? Is this a priority? Is that a priority? And then there is an opportunity to provide some open-ended responses, but it is significantly less than what we did with the original survey for that first. Tell us anything and everything you want to tell us about parks, recreation, and culture. And we'll come back and take a look at it and go back out to the community and say, here's what we heard. Is this correct?
And the thing I want to point out, this is probably, if you don't remember anything else that we just kind of shot at you through the fire hose here, that first step, starting with an open end, is really important for building trust. Because I don't want anyone to feel like we didn't ask the right questions or we gave them a narrower list of categories to choose from than they were thinking. And so we trust them to share, but that means we could have doubled the survey numbers, but because you had to think. You really had to think about what are you going to say about how things could be better. But for me, it's super helpful to get a pulse of the community. So we've got a couple more questions up there.
Cliff, is your hand up?
Yes. On the top of the list was, making Lacey a more welcoming community, and I've seen that in a number of places. Have you, or are you working with the private sector? Is there a public-private collaboration where those developers who are building all of these homes and communities and apartment complexes and all the new people are moving in and joining the community, have you considered working with them to have something occur in those communities or in those complexes to welcome the new residents into the community and to educate them on the community and provide, job opportunities and share the businesses and all with those new members of the community? If I was brand new moving into a community and, in a new apartment complex and the city showed up or a group showed up to tell me all about the city and surrounding and all the things that are going on, I would feel more welcome into that particular community. So is there anything that you considered along those lines?
I'll let Shannon answer that one, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love the intent of it.
Commissioner Brown, I would agree. I think that is an excellent idea. And I think we can expand what we are currently doing here at the city in the future. So what we are currently doing is we do have a community relations specialist that works for the city, and they hold regular meetings with our neighborhood associations and homeowners associations, as well as meet with new residents that come online here at the city. So currently we have quarterly meetings set up for the neighborhood associations to meet, and then we try to meet with newly annexed properties as well. So if a property is brought on, that's certainly something that we're looking to expand here in 2022. But I think, you just identified a great way to do that is to start looking at, hey, what are some of the larger, assets that are coming on for residential areas, and to make better connections and more robust connections moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't know if this was answered or not. I have to step back for a second, but what other ways were, because I believe I filled this out as well. What other ways besides online was this survey done? And did we take in account more than just the different cultures, but also different abilities, like people who maybe have special needs, or maybe are not able to, maybe they're vision impaired, did we take any of those individuals into gosh, I can't even
Consideration?
Yeah, into the survey. Maybe get with maybe like Morningside or Department of Disability to see if they have any people that might have wanted to interact with that. Plus, you also got a lot of military people too. I know when we first moved here, I had a really hard time acclimating because, I mean, just in general, when you're military, having to move from place to place and you don't have people around you that you know, and you have to foster those relationships. Did you take that into account?
Yeah, I'll do the first part. Shannon, I'll let you roll with it. So it's funny you should bring that up, Makeda. I actually sit on the board of Morningside, and I took the survey to the board meeting and said, give this to everybody,
amazing,
of all of our clients. And then we did some other little things like Shannon can tell you, I don't know how many, we had like 100 different community organizations that we sent the survey to and said, can you get this to your constituents? You know, because they don't want to give you their email addresses, but they'll send it out for you. And so we did that. And I have a friend who's in a military spouse group, and she got it on social media. So it got pretty good coverage. And then Shannon, I don't know, like your lived experience at the city, if we had any kind of unique audiences that we accommodated.
So, to go back, we, like Jason just said, we did blast that out to, I think it was around 500 community stakeholders, which were individuals, nonprofits, private entities, to say, hey, would you please pass this on? And I believe a couple of the entities that were passed on to were military groups, military spouse groups as well. We can certainly always do a better job in those areas, but we did have them on the list. Also, if you go to, and this is what Jason was just mentioning here, is there are some alternatives than just the survey. So, we pushed the survey, but we also pushed the LaceyCares.org website, and that is still active today. So if you go on to LaceyCares.org, it'll provide you, number one, the survey is still up there, so you could take a look at and see what the survey looked like. But it also provides you with kind of the general outline of the Lacey Cares initiative. And it provides you a way to sign up for presentations or meetings with the city if you wanted to provide some input or provide more information. So I'd highly recommend, if there's any individuals or groups out there that are wanting more information or wanting an opportunity to provide some information, to go on to LaceyCares.org and fill out that flyer, and we will be in contact with those individuals shortly after they fill those out.
Awesome.
I will be going back in there to harvest that data when we sort the rest of the groups, by the way.
Sweet.
And those, just to add on, those community meetings, that's going to be something that we're going to be doing throughout this process. So we really do invite community members to fill that out. Let us know, when you want information, what you're looking for, and if you want to provide, certain input, certainly want to reach out to you.
Any other questions of Shannon and Jason?
So one last thing I just want to reiterate with this group is this is a multi-phased process. And so, we are still early on in this process, and we're going to continue to work on, looking through the data that we have and making educated steps forward. And then also, taking a look at what we do as we make those educated steps and refining them. And so a lot of things that we're going to be doing are, community engagement efforts. And so certainly, with the Commission on Equity, as we move forward, that's something we're going to want to bring back to this body to get some input and some feedback on. So what I'm trying to say is we will be back in front of you all here in a couple of months to ask for some more feedback and direction.
As far as the PowerPoint that Jason just shared, could that be shared with us? Could you forward that to us, Shannon?
Absolutely.
So we can, follow it along, and when he comes back in 2 months or whatever, we're building up on what we learned and the knowledge we gained from that presentation tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Seeing nothing else on this topic, we'll move to item 4C, the November community engagement sessions.
All right. Well, I was going to start off tonight's meeting by saying I haven't seen you all for so long. 1 week. It is nice to see you all. Less than a month. So at our last meeting together, at our work session.
Thank you, Chair Jackson and group. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for joining us, Jason. We
I'll
look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Bye, guys.
So at our last work session meeting, we were discussing our community engagement planning for our community engagement events that we have planned for November 15th and November 20th coming up here. So I'm going to share a slide deck, and I just want to provide an update on some of the considerations and get some recommendations and feedback from this group moving forward on that event. So let me share my screen with you all. So at the last meeting, we discussed the meeting type, and based on that meeting, we're moving forward with a hybrid approach. This would allow for individuals to attend in person as well as online. For a location, so for the November 15th, which is our night meeting during the weekday, my recommendation for this group is to hold it at City Hall. And the reason for that is number one, the community center is booked that evening, so we can't hold it there. Two, City Hall is set up for technologies which would allow us to have that hybrid approach very easily. And three, it's the largest meeting space that we have other than the community center, which would allow us to make sure that we are providing social distance between all of the individuals who show up. For the Saturday event, which is November 20th, and this is an afternoon event from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., my recommendation would again be to hold it at City Hall. And this time it's not because the community center is booked. The community center is available. And it's also certainly something that we have funding to be able to rent. My recommendation though for this group, it would be to have it at City Hall just based on the desire to have that hybrid ability. It would take us some logistical efforts to get us the technology to the community center in order for us to have a system that would allow for the hybrid environment. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and just see if there's any questions or recommendations as far as the meeting type, which again is hybrid is the recommendation. And I am recommending that we have both of the meetings at City Hall. And for Monday, that's because the community center is booked. And then on Saturday, we also have it at City Hall for technology issues. However, if this body wanted to move forward with the community center, we could certainly look into that.
The only reason I think maybe doing the community center would be good would just be to see if there's a difference in who shows up, with the different locations. But if it's going to be really difficult, then I don't know, we don't have to, but I just think it'd be interesting to see if there's a difference of, who and how many people show up, depending on if they feel comfortable going to City Hall or if they feel more comfortable going to the community center, or if there's any difference at all.
And I think City Hall is also a nice middle of the road location. Hopefully everybody's familiar with where that is as well, central location. I think that would be great.
Well, Shannon, this is Thelma. Shannon and I worked on this. You all had asked me the last time to, work and throw out some conceptual framework ideas and all. And we had a good discussion that wound up in the draft flyer and the materials you're looking at. And we did talk at length about the choices between City Hall and the community center and what might work and what might not work. We didn't talk so much about the technical challenges that the community center would present. But I had thought that the community center might feel a little more user-friendly for the kind of people, the kind of audience we're trying to attract. City Hall being, you know, governmental, and really not that many people know where it is, tucked behind that tree line. But, you know, in our outreach and our communication, we can make sure people know where that is. But because we do want it to be user-friendly to people, and if technical challenges might hinder that, you know, that makes a case for City Hall. And this is the first such listening session that we'll have. And we can try and sense, you know, how well City Hall works. And if the next time around we want to, maybe we'll be done with COVID and won't have the distancing challenges that we have now. And explore, you know, other places like the community center and other places as well. But given the technical challenges and our first time out, we'd hate to have those technical difficulties sidetrack, you know, what we're actually trying to accomplish here. And that's get as many people out feeling as comfortable and sharing their points of view and their concerns as we possibly can.
Absolutely. This is Commissioner Hart. Another suggestion probably would be maybe one of the fire stations. They have pretty big open spaces just as for something in the future, maybe not for this time, but that might be something that might be a suggestion, because a lot of the times those are places where they can also go to vote. So they may also know where that would be.
So it sounds like City Hall is in a hybrid situation for the location point of view in your first slide. Shannon, yes.
Commissioner Clay also has their hand raised. Commissioner Clay, if you want to go first.
Yes, I agree that for now that the City Hall would be the best thing. I would add that we should have a couple of us out greeting people as they come in, so that it's real easy to find the room. It's, you know, it's welcoming right off the bat.
Great.
So Chair Jackson, I just want to, you know, it would be harder, but I think we could get it done. So, you know, if this body wants to have it at the community center, we can certainly, you know, try our best to make sure that we can do that. So I'm certainly open to that.
I think it was Christine that made a point about one in one location and the other one in the other location, and just to see the difference in the turnout. But you know, the other key factor there, one is weekday on the evening, and the other one is weekend on an afternoon. So we still might not learn very much about the difference in the two locations by virtue of the difference in the two times.
Yeah, and I think we'll have plenty of opportunities in the future to kind of play around with locations.
Any other comments on that first slide deck that Shannon just shared?
So is the consensus from the group then to have it at City Hall this time, and to evaluate in the future other areas as moving forward?
I would say yes.
Great.
Thumbs up?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and get to advertising and marketing. So at the last meeting, we also discussed how are we going to be able to get the word out. So just to give an update on that. So on social media, we will be able to have it as an event, and we'll also be able to make multiple posts letting people know that that is something that's going on. We'll be able to do the same thing on Twitter and Instagram. And for our YouTube site, we are now live streaming all of our public meetings. And the great thing about that, you know, in addition to being accessible, is we are also able to create events in advance of them occurring. So individuals who subscribe to our YouTube channel will get alerts that we have these events that are ongoing. So that'll be another mechanism in which we can help get the word out. We'll make sure to have information provided on our website. Like I mentioned at our last meeting, it's contained in our Lacey Life newsletter that went out earlier today. So it should be in people's mailboxes here in the next couple of days, which just provides a brief overview, and come check out the website to learn more. In addition to that, we are looking to do a Thurston Talk article. So Thurston Talk is a online media source here in Thurston County, and we just do a article with them that provides an outline of what we're looking for. And for that, I would certainly like a commissioner or two to join me for that article to be able to provide some insight and comments on that. We'll be releasing a press release, which again is sent to all of our media contacts, letting them know, hey, we have this going on, and certainly share this information if you're interested. I took a look earlier today on the Olympian website, and I still can't confirm quite how to run an ad there. So I'm going to take a little bit deeper dive onto that, but that is up there as potentially as an option as well. Finally, we'll do an email blast, just like we did with the Lacey Cares initiative, where we will send this out to our community partners. So these are nonprofit entities, as well as potentially our hiring list. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. And then also sending out information to you all so that you all can send it out to whoever you think might be interested in attending our community engagement sessions. So on that, for the materials to be sending out, so last time we talked, we said, hey, it'd be really great if we had a flyer that we could send out to individuals, letting them know that these community engagement sessions were happening. And as part of that meeting, what I heard was, number one, that it needed to be accessible and concise. And so that's what we've tried to do with the flyer. And as Chair Jackson mentioned last week, Chair Jackson and myself got together to create the context for the flyer, and then the city staff were able to make this amazing looking flyer. I just want to say thank you to Donna Feliciano, who did this and put this together. So
looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you. She does some amazing work. So on the first page are some of the elements that I heard from you all that were important to incorporate. So number one, when, where, and what format. Now we will update this with City Hall, so it's reflective of the when, but this provides hey, here's where the dates are going to happen. It'll provide where it's going to happen, and it also provides the format, so you can join us in person or you can join us online. It provides what questions will be asked. So you can see here on the left-hand side an overview of 6 questions for consideration to be asked at the event. And it also provides information on how we will use what we collect from these listening sessions. And it really stresses that these listening sessions are just the starting point, and that we are going to be going back out to the community to get more information. It also provides an alternative attendance. So you can see here on the right-hand side, there is unable to attend. It has a QR code and a website code as well. So individuals could scan this flyer with their cell phones, or when we send it out, we'll make sure that it's clickable, so you can click on it and go directly to that mechanism, which I'll show you here in just a second, that'll collect alternative input for individuals who may not be able to make it, or maybe individuals who do make it and then realize they had more to add afterwards. So that is page 1 of the flyer. Now turning around to page 2, what I heard from this group was also some background on why the commission was formed and why we're doing the work that we are doing, what the role of the Commission on Equity is as an advisory body for the Lacey City Council, why the work, as I mentioned, is very important here and now. And this is something that we're going to continue to refine as we get community input. And as part of our next workshop on our strategic diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. A photo of our commissioners, which Commissioner Brown, we're going to have to take another photo to make sure that you get in there, because I know
Did you miss it? Oh.
That was your idea.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I had technical issues, but gosh.
We'll take another one with the individuals who are still on this call, so I can edit them, and we'll get everybody in one photo.
I'm sorry.
And then it also provides, so you can see that green space right there is going to be the space for the photo. So it's coming. and then a contact information for individuals who might have questions. So I'm going to stop my share right now and just see if there were any questions, concerns, thoughts, edits, or additions on the flyers that were presented here tonight. And you also have received copies in your email as well.
Right.
Yes, I took a look at it, and gosh, it is awesome. The flyer looks just wonderful. The questions, you know, the things that we mentioned that we wanted to see and we thought were important to be included are there. And I think it's readable in that I think those who see it will actually, you know, take some time to read it and front and back and see that, you know, the commission is alive and they have an opportunity to participate and share, you know, some of their ideas and some of their concerns. So I really like it.
There are a couple of small suggestions I'd like to offer. Shannon, I can do it now, or I can follow up with you, you know, offline. What would be your, well, I can just say it for everyone's benefit. On the second page of the flyer where we talk about recommendations to the Lacey City Council on ways to, and that first bullet, I would like to add for all at the end of that. Create a more welcoming community for all. Mm-hmm. And then when you get down to the fourth bullet, talking about remove barriers that prevent, I'd like to say identify and remove barriers. We got to identify them first before we can remove them. Identify and remove barriers. And then I'd like to offer an additional bullet. It's getting a little crowded there, but I'll say it and then we can do what we want to with it. Eliminate embedded institutional racism and oppression that exists in policies, practices, and procedures. So this is all getting back to the kind of recommendations we as a commission are wanting to make to the city council. Mm-hmm. Eliminate embedded institutional racism and oppression that exists in policies, practices, and procedures. Mm-hmm. We haven't gotten into our equity statement and that kind of stuff yet. It's coming with some of our workshops, but if we're going to use this flyer to try and help the community understand what we're about, that was just one area that I didn't see a bullet that really got at that. So I would just offer that as some additions to that light blue section of the back of the flyer. Is this a 2-page flyer or a front and back?
So Chair Jackson, the idea of this would be that it would be a front and back. So you would see the event and you'd flip it over to learn more context. Okay. So it would be that light blue section on the back of the flyer. I just offered that as some discussion. So those are my thoughts. Annie, I see your hand.
I very much agree with especially your last bullet. I think we need to be really, really clear about what we're doing, what we're looking at. It's not just lip service, that we're really gonna dig in here. So I appreciate that. I had I think this is so fabulous and concise and takes what we have been talking about. I do wonder in the background section, the first paragraph, if we could add something. I really want our LGBTQ community to be talking to us. I want our persons with disability community to be talking to us, people with English as a second language. I want to be sure that all, we actually state a little bit more about all. So I would like to add at the end of that first paragraph, something like inequities and concerns also impact LGBTQ community, persons with disabilities, and those using English as a second language.
So this is Kim. Now, if we are offering that, how are we going to accommodate the ESL? Are we providing someone who can interpret, or are we even saying that in the brochure? So how are we going to, express that? Are we going to say maybe a few languages that will say in Korean, like contact us, or Chinese? I mean, how are we trying to reach that? I mean, you can't say in English and say contact us for your language, right? If they don't get that, right? And so this is really good, but I'm just thinking, my circle of friends that are this 5 to 7 days still working. A lot of them are still working. A lot of them just the mom and pop stores where they actually have to work and so forth. So I'm wondering if we even perhaps we can think about doing a focus group where we can have some segment of people who can meet, and then it's like we going to them to accommodate their schedule or their convenient, and then we can bring what we learn to the bigger group. So I'm just proposing that because, like I said, not everyone can come to these events because of their situation.
Yes, so Kim, that's something that we talked about at the last meeting, that it would be important as follow-on meetings that we do have some focus groups to be able to drill down and to really, talk to and listen to, those that have input. So I think that should definitely be a part of our mantra going forward.
And commissioners, if you look at the front page of the flyer, one of the questions that we certainly want to ask is, would you be interested in more dialogue with the Commission on Equity? And the purpose of that question really was to try to get at, would you be interested in a future focus group moving forward? We'd like to, get a list going of individuals who might be, wanting to have more conversation and provide more feedback. And Commissioner Sauer, I just want to get back to, your point about, hey, what about languages and what about translations here moving forward? I think those are, both excellent ideas and things that we need to look into here moving forward. My recommendation, and I'll get to this in a couple of slides here, is that for the purpose of, time and just this initial, session would be for the alternative method that we'll have set up. To get that translated into several languages and to make that available, as well as a shortened flyer of a little brief translation, asking for community input and engagement. And so I'll show that slide here in just a couple of seconds, but that's certainly something we want to look into moving forward as part of this process.
Not to mention the hearing impaired as well.
Any other comments from commissioners or suggestions on the flyer content?
Just point out, Shannon, that on the background, on the backside, about the fourth line down, we have "and" twice. I'm sure your folk will catch that when they do the proof, but just in case they don't. That's a minor little thing, but we want the, yeah. Anything else from any commissioner?
So just really quickly to recap from what I'm hearing from this group, and I want to make sure that I am moving forward with the correct guidance here, is there were some changes that Chair Jackson that you mentioned, adding for all, identifying and removing barriers, and then adding some additional language about eliminating institutional racism. I just wanted to point out that the bullet points that are currently existent in that section are what the Commission on Equity is charged with by ordinance. So I just wanted to highlight that element that's from the ordinance. As far as Commissioner Clay, you mentioned having some explaining, unpacking all as part of the context on the backside, including LGBTQ, individuals with disabilities, English as second language, etc. And I think those were the recommendations that I heard. Is there any conversation about those? Did I get that correct?
Let me ask you a question, Shannon, about that last bullet I suggested. You're saying that these bullets were from our charge to the commission. Maybe that should have been part of the charge. And when we dealt with the charge, that didn't jump out at me. But when I looked at it in this context, eliminating institutional racism, that kind of thing. So thanks for pointing that out, that that's the charge. I didn't think in terms of it being the charge. I was just coming back to what we were doing, providing recommendations on ways to, and then there was those bullets. Yeah. And that really should have been part of our charge if it wasn't, I think.
So Chair Jackson, I certainly think, again, that being what we're trying to highlight, hey, here's what the Lacey City Council really tasked us to take a look at. And what I'm hearing from you is, hey, maybe at a future commission meeting, we should take a look at some of those elements in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, if we want to just make sure we limit this to what's currently in the charge, then that wouldn't be appropriate for me to be suggesting an additional bullet. But now that I look at it and realize that that isn't part of the charge, yeah, at some future, we need to discuss and see if we want to add something along those lines. It doesn't necessarily have to be this, but that's the crux of what this commission is all about, as far as what we'll be recommending to the council, I think. So that approach would suit me fine at some point in the future.
Okay.
In the near future, though, as we start talking about our plan of work and strategic planning.
All right. And so for the rest of the additions, I'll just make a couple of additions and we'll be able to send that out here shortly.
Great.
So look for it in your mailbox in the next day or two. You should have a copy that can be sent out to let individuals know that we're hosting these community engagement sessions.
Let me back up to your first page 1 of the flyer where you list all the places and the advertisement we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much is out there, but newsletters within specific ethnic communities, church bulletins, this is where the bulk of people of color get their information. And so as these things are sent out electronically, it behooves us all as individuals to make sure they show up in specific kinds of places that we know our people frequent, whether it's LGBTQ, disability community, Black community, Korean community, whatever. I think we all have particular mechanisms of communication in addition to these mainstream things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Chair Jackson, on that point, we will be printing off a number of these and have them available also at City Hall. So commissioners, if you want to come in and pick up copies that you can certainly send them on email, but if you want to pick up hard copies as well, feel free. I'll let you know when those copies are available at City Hall.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
And should we wait until the typo that Commissioner Jackson mentioned get fixed before we send it out? Because it looks, I know you got the typo, and then I know you wanted to add our pictures and stuff to the back side of it. Should we wait to promote it until we get the final copy?
Commissioner Hart, I hope to have a final copy for you all at the latest by the end of today or end of day tomorrow. So if you could wait until we have those copies to send them out so we do have a finalized version, that would be fantastic. But like I said, this will be a priority for me tomorrow to make those edits and get this routed to you all.
Amazing.
Hold your horses, Marquita. It's coming fast.
Yes.
One little point, Shannon, I believe it's good to put LGBTQ plus, then that gives, there's a lot of other letters that can come after that.
Great.
That's the easiest way.
Great.
Well, Shannon, I would just comment that this flyer is tremendous, given the rough draft that you and I wound up with, the language, and for your staff person to have taken that raw material and turned it into what's going to be a fantastic flyer. I compliment whoever that was. You called her name, I missed it, but that was tremendous in a short amount of turnaround time.
Donna Feliciano does a fantastic job.
Great.
So we also discussed tonight, briefly went over this, that alternative way to provide input. So I have set up a way, like I mentioned, that individuals can scan a code or go through a URL to a web page where they are going to be able to provide information and feedback to this group. So just to give you a preview of what that looks like, share my screen. So scanning that code or typing in that URL, you'll be taken to this page, and this allows community members, it provides the same information that was provided on the flyer in kind of a brief form, given that we anticipate that most people are going to see it on the flyer, but again, this will be updated to reflect the changes that we just discussed. But then it asks those questions that were identified on the flyer and allows individuals to provide their input in each of these boxes. They aren't required to provide information in all of the boxes, so they can provide it where they want to provide. Just like the live sessions, we have the question here at the bottom that says, would you be interested in having more dialogue with the community or with the Commission on Equity? And again, anticipating that we are going to want to host future focus groups. So this allows individuals to say yes and then provide some contact information so that way we can contact them afterwards. So once this is set up, what I will do is I will share with the commission a dashboard that will allow you all to look at the feedback that is being received during these meetings. And so just briefly, this is what it will look like on your end. And I put one in just as a test here, but you'll be able to see in a grid form individuals' answers to each of these questions. And so they will just show up as participant 1, and you'll see the rest of the information as they have entered it. So that is available as an alternative mechanism for individuals to provide feedback. Any questions, comments on that mechanism?
That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing, just going back to Commissioner Sauer's a comment on the languages. So my recommendation for this particular meeting, and in the future looking to bring on more translations and more translators, is to translate the alternative way in a short flyer that is announcing this opportunity to provide and engage with the Commission on Equity. And so what I'm showing you here is Table A, and this is our 2019 American Community Surveys, language spoken at home for populations 5 years and over. So my recommendation would be to provide translations into the top 2 languages identified here in Lacey for this purpose. And that would be Spanish and Korean. So we would get that alternative mechanism translated into Spanish and Korean. Now, as far as getting information to the commission, it would certainly be available for you all to read in Spanish and Korean, but we would work on the back end to get that translated so you all can take a look at the information that is shared through those alternative mechanisms. So that is my recommendation for translations with these engagement sessions. I do think in the future moving forward, as we have a kind of longer time frame to work with and some more experience, we can certainly add to this tool belt.
Great, thank you. I'm surprised to see the lower number. I thought there would be more than 1,000 something. But at least you have some data.
And Commissioner Sauer, I am certainly excited to see what the 2020 census data shows us.
Well, I think this gives us a great beginning to certainly make a statement to the community that we are trying everything we possibly can to be as inclusive as we possibly can, knowing that we'll learn, we'll continue to grow and expand. But I think that message should be coming through loudly and clearly. So thanks for all those efforts on the part of the city, Shannon.
Chair Jackson, the last thing I just wanted to go over with the events is the actual logistics of the day of the event. So we have created all of, the mechanisms and advertisement to get individuals there. Now we just need to have a conversation on, how we want it to run once we are there. And so I think, my recommendations for this group would be to, just like on the flyer, providing that background information and providing that context, and then going over, what we're going to be looking for today. And there are 6 questions. So maybe if each commissioner felt inclined to kind of facilitate one question, that would be a good way to get across all of that information moving forward.
And one thing about both of these scheduled listening sessions, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants because we don't know if we're talking about 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people. And whatever format we come up with, we've got to be quick on our feet to adjust depending on who shows up and in what quantity. So that'll be another interesting learning opportunity for us as a commission.
And in anticipation of that, Chair Jackson, say, for example, if we get 1,000 people, which would just be phenomenal to see. Obviously, we are limited in time. We have planned for each of these engagement sessions to be 2 hours. My recommendation for that would be to determine in advance, if this is the case, a time frame to allow individuals to speak, but then to let them know that there is that alternative option available if they want to continue to provide more information and input to the Commission on Equity.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
So should we select questions tonight for each commissioner or assign them? How we want to do that? So we have time to really be prepared.
Vice Chair Brown, certainly if you all want to select a question tonight, that's fine by me.
Okay.
I'll take number 2. Who would go for number 1? So we can expedite this as fast as we can. Number 1.
I'll take number 5.
Who was that?
Makita, Commissioner Hart.
Okay, Makita.
I'll take number 1.
All right. Number 1, number 2, and number 5 are taken.
I can take number 4. This is Kim.
Kim. Okay.
I'll take
3 and number 6.
I'll take 3.
All right, Annie. Now we have 6 questions and 7 commissioners. I really can step aside from one of those and do overall facilitation and let the other 6 of you take the 6 questions. How about that? Okay, so eliminate me from number 2. So we want to leave a question for Alanis. She would be the 6th commissioner here.
Then I'll take number 2 and you can give number 1 to someone else. Yeah.
Okay, Cliff, number 2.
I'll take
And
number 1.
who is that?
Christine.
Christine. Okay, and what that leaves number 6. Right?
We have 8. We have 8 people. 7 plus 1. right?
That's right. Our youth
Yeah.
person makes the 8th one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Chair Jackson, I know you're going to facilitate the beginning of the meeting where, you're providing the background and reasons for why we're
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Perhaps if we also had everyone has a role here, a closer of the meeting as well
Yeah.
to talk about
That
next
would be
steps.
number 8. Yeah.
Mhm.
A closer.
Commissioner Hedgewood, would you be interested in that role?
Certainly. I'm not sure what all it entails, but I am certainly up for it.
Okay. So which one did we give Alanis? Was that number 6?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Then it's done.
So the
Very good.
format goes, then when we talk about these questions, do we kind of introduce ourselves, or that's not necessary, or what's the best way to?
Well, in the opening, in the welcome, in the context, I can introduce the commission all at once up front.
Okay.
And that way, and then with our pictures on the flyers and all that kind of stuff, they should be able to make that connection. I would think. I mean, 2 hours gonna fly by so fast. Anywhere we can eliminate, a few seconds here and there, it's gonna help us in the end.
Sounds good.
That okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Shannon?
So Chair Jackson, that is the end of the items that I brought up to discuss for the community engagement sessions, with the exception of Cliff Brown's photo. So we can add it to the rest of the group. So Vice Chair
That's
Brown,
right.
if you don't mind.
Yes, I put clothes on and everything, and then I couldn't get into it. I was not feeling happy about that. Okay.
All right. Whenever you're ready, let me know. On 1, 2.
You got it?
Great. I think I now have all of the commissioners. Thank you.
Great, 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 super. Then that takes us to commissioner reports. We aren't at the point yet where we actually have commissioner reports, but it's on the agenda. Anything any commissioner want to say, a report, a share, or whatever the case might be? And
well, I wanted to bring up again the point we were going to work on about land acknowledgements, and I would be interested in doing some side work on that, maybe with another commissioner. I read that North Thurston High School, school district, worked with one of their teachers, native teachers, to create one for the school board, an acknowledgement that happens before each board meeting. And that's something that the council wants us to do. So I would be interested in working on that, if that would be appropriate. And
Shannon?
Commissioner Clay, I just wanted to provide some background. So at tonight's meeting, we were tentatively going to, discuss options, for acknowledging, the tribes and the tribal land that we're on here as part of tonight's meeting. However, just given the number of items that we had on the agenda, we thought this would be something we want to make sure that we're spending adequate time taking a look at. And so at this point in time, it is tentatively scheduled for just an overview and outline at the next meeting, which is November 22nd.
Okay.
So certainly want to pick this back up shortly with the Commission on Equity.
And I would just say, consider me for any, potential meetings with regarding Juneteenth, because I think with that organization and building a collaboration among other organizations in the city, that there may be even more holidays that we can look at, or events like MLK Day or something. So.
Any other commissioner?
Yeah, I would like to be on that as well with you, Cliff. I do have a business directory for BIPOC businesses. So yeah, I think that would be a good one for me as well.
You can add me to that as well. That would give us 3 and not be officially a quorum. Any more than 3, we're in trouble. But
Yeah.
I connect to the Fred U. Harris pretty good, and they have a lot of contacts there. And Jay and I have talked about this. So I'm just interested in seeing a smooth flow and a smooth transition. So whenever that happens, hopefully I'm available. Yeah. Is there anything else from any other commissioner? Then let's go to our director report.
Chair Jackson, the only question I have for the commission is there any individual who would like to take on next month's inspirational item?
Are there any volunteers? You want to loop back Annie or what? Marketa did a beautiful job while you were in South Africa, and Alanis did a terrific job tonight. Any other takers on that for our inspirational item for next month?
That was fun.
Who was that I heard said?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Hart, that was fun. I actually was torn between 2 poems.
Okay.
Come on, folks.
Did we have a taker? I didn't hear.
Commissioner Hart, would you like to do your second poem?
Sure. I'll either do a second poem or maybe I'll come up with something something a little bit more innovative. I liked what was done today, so.
That was neat.
Okay, great.
Chair Jackson, that's it for my report.
Okay. Let's look briefly here at the upcoming meetings before we adjourn. I had a question on the next regular meeting. I had on my calendar November 29th. And we're saying the next meeting is November 22nd. Did I err or did something change?
So Chair Jackson, the 1st of November is actually a Monday. So there are 5 Mondays in November. And this body meets on the 4th Monday of November. So that would be the 22nd. It's kind of rare. It's rare that you have a 5th Monday.
Right. But when we had the list of the meetings for the year, we had the 29th. Yeah. And
there
so
was one.
Was, right. Okay. Not a problem. I just wanted to clarify. So it is the 22nd.
Well, then that is an error on my part, and I apologize. The next meeting is on November 22nd.
No problem. Now's the time to clarify so I can straighten out my calendar on that. Okay. Other than that, is there anything else to come before the commission this evening? If not, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for taking photographs. Thank you all for the upcoming events for the month of November. So between our 2 listening sessions and our regular meeting, we'll have a busy November. So thank you very much. And thank you, Shannon, for all the great work with you and your staff there at the city. And this meeting is adjourned at 7:20.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Okay, goodbye.